Welcome home.
Mummy!
Why don't you tell me what happened to you in Marja?
I've been seeing things. Hallucinations. And it's not PTSD. I've been taking the pills.
That's the thing about war. Always leave scars, and not all of them are physical.
I just want to thank you both for taking this time to do this interview. And I just want to say that the movie was amazing. It was incredible, especially the ending, but we'll get to that later on in the interview. So my first question is, in one word, how would you sum up The Unfamiliar?
Basically, The Unfamiliar is about a woman that is a doctor in the army, and she comes back from war, and she thinks she has PTSD, to discover that there's a lot more going on than she initially realizes. I don't know how much to say. Hank, do you want to add from there?
I can. I think he said we should give him one word that sums it up. So I would say,
word.
Yeah, in one word, I would say mystery, or mysterious. I would say.
Mysterious?
I think so.
Yeah. Paranormal.
Paranormal. Yeah, could be.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. My next question is, were there any other titles you came up with before The Unfamiliar? If so, what were they?
Yeah, we actually came up with the name Transference. And that came about because of kind of what happens to some characters. I don't want to say too much, but then of course it changed. Hank, I don't know if you want to elaborate on sort of the changes that happened in between.
Yeah, sure. So Transference, actually, when we started pitching it around, it was very close to Transcendence, which is the Johnny Depp movie. And we looked at it, and it also had a sci-fi ring to it. And we thought that it might get confused with a sci-fi-ish film. And then we looked for a film that has the word family in it, because it's such a strong family-driven movie. And it's all about a mother trying to keep her family safe. And then the word The Unfamiliar, which almost has the word family in it, just came to us. And we were like, well, that's great. So that's kind of how it came about.
So the next question is, do you ever get writer's block when writing the script? If so, what did you do to get back on track?
Well, writer's block, I think the thing is with, at least when Hank and I were writing it together, we went at it pretty hard. And I think every day we would discover something different, and we'd have to go back and change a lot of things. And then, of course, I think what's actually interesting about a writer's block is that it helps you kind of stay fresh and get to the next thing, because you excite yourself. And I think that's kind of, we were taking the journey and really trying to solidify the characters before we continued on. Like, what would happen to this character? How would this character look at this? How would this character act in particular to this situation? We really were thinking of all those components, and then anytime we just tried to enrich or create more detail for those characters. And there were times where we get a writer's block, but I think you just need a bit of time to come back fresh the next day and just keep working until you get inspired, basically. Just keep writing.
So Jennifer, again, I have another question. The end of the film, that last shocking frame that showed, I'm not gonna spoil what it is. Did you know how it was gonna end? Do you know it was gonna end that way when you started writing the script, or did it come to you afterwards?
It definitely came towards the end, I would say. It was kind of a journey, taking this family, from their home to, an exotic location that they were unfamiliar with. And we were trying to discover what would happen. And so we sort of we came to that kind of conclusion towards the end, I would say. Yeah.
My questions to you, Hank. What was your favorite scene to direct, and what was your most ambitious scene to direct?
I think my favorite scene was probably the piano scene. I really loved the piano scene, the way it was shot and its simplicity, but also it should have had that huge beat in the end, which I loved directing. And also then everything that happened after the piano scene, really. So the entire, it gets very tense. The way the camera moves is very quickly. I liked following the characters around, telling it from Izzy's perspective or the lead character's perspective. So I think the piano scene really rocked for me. Yeah. And then the most ambitious thing to do was the water scenes. And I allocated way too little time for myself to do them. And it was ridiculous. It was 4 or 5 divers in a pool with 4 or 5 actors, and they're going 6 meters underneath the water. And I gave myself 4 days to shoot everything. And it was terrible. You know, I felt so sorry for Jemima and all the hard work she had to do on those days, and as well as the other cast, because you literally don't have any control over the water. And it was so hot in the studio as well, which I didn't anticipate. And then it's like, I mean, just the anxiety of like walking around and there's electricity. I mean, obviously it's safe, but there's lights underneath the water. I mean, this is my first time I'm shooting underneath water. There's lights and electricity everywhere. There's people running around. There's 4 divers. There's like, I'm talking on this like two-way radio with people. And then everything I say is like really loud underneath the pool. And at first you think it's really cool because, you know, it's like a toy. But then you get quite self-conscious because you're going, rah, 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 and it goes, rah, rah, rah. And then you think, everything I say needs to matter and sound really cool. Otherwise, you know, I'm talking to like 40, 50 people at one time, and now you're directing actors and you're asking them, can you go a little bit deeper? And, you know, I won't go that deep, but they did. So that was quite ambitious and quite intense. Yeah.
Jennifer? What was your writing schedule when you wrote The All Familiar?
I mean, I think Henk and I we got up, we started writing until 5 p.m. every day, except weekends, I think. And sometimes actually that's not entirely true. Sometimes we brainstorm on the weekend or even after we stopped writing, or sometimes, you know, doing a lot of research and going to different horror films and just kind of getting inspired. We talk about it afterwards. So it was kind of an ongoing process, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Tom, can you grab an extension too?
Sure, be right back.
Tom, stop playing games. You're wasting water.
So, could you discuss your experience working with the cast members?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, I love little Harry McMillan Hunt. He's the kid. Tommy, he was just fantastic. He's got like a memory you won't understand. You give him lines and he looks at them and he's like, oh, okay. And then just says them. It's incredible. I mean, it's amazing. He's like a little robot with emotions, you know. So he was fantastic. And then Jemima is just Jemima West, just one of the most hardworking actors I've met. She just goes and goes, and she does all her own stunts. She does the physicality of the characters. She's always nice to talk to, very professional. I loved working with her. And then Christopher Dane, he's actually a Danish actor. He gave me a surprisingly intriguing performance. I thought he did a stellar job in how he conveyed the character. And then Rebecca Hanssen, which is a rising star in the UK at the moment. She's on a Netflix series, and then she's on another television show, and another film as well. And and she's actually her boyfriend is like a really famous YouTube star that I know from YouTube. So I was quite starstruck when I met him as well. It's like, hey, how's it, man? And now he's sort of following me on Twitter, so that's cool. So yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. And I think that. Oh, and Rebecca. Oh, I forgot Rachel Lynn. Rachel Lynn actually made one of her first performances was in Harry Potter, and she had to phonetically study the wine in the way she does, and to authentically convey the character and the mythology, which Jennifer really contributed to a lot. She actually, it was her idea to bring in the Hawaiian mythology, and she read all these thick books and stuff. But so she wrote it into the script, and then Rachel took it and made it her own, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, so I respect her for doing that.
Jemima West, as you said earlier, she did a fantastic job playing Elizabeth Cormack, which was a trouble yet strong-willed character. Could you, give me an interesting fact about her as a person?
As a person, she lives in Paris. She's British, and then she also speaks French. But what's interesting about Jemima is she's incredibly professional. She's quite quiet. She's calm, but she doesn't like. It's like she's not a cold person. She's very warm, but she's professional. I think I've worked with Katie McGrath before that, and it was a similar thing. It's like acting as a job, and they're there to do their job. So I don't really get to know the actors or actresses, and I don't really like see it as I mean, it's fine to have conversations, but there's no like we don't really have conversation about friendship and anything outside of work. So to me, I like it like that, because it's like she's part of the team that make the film, and I know as much as the production designer, for instance. And I like it because she comes with an incredible craft, and she brings an incredible character to the film, and then we discuss it, and she does it. So there's no like real personal thing or something I could say that you couldn't find online, because I don't know in that way.
What is your favorite horror movie as a teenager?
My favorite horror movie as a teenager would be The Exorcist. I really liked that film. It really gave me a lot of nightmares. I love The Shining as well. I think it's incredible. And then I'm quite a sucker for Scream, to be honest. I thought Scream was fun, So I mean, to be completely honest with you, I really enjoyed it, and I was quite scared of it as well. Which I shouldn't be saying to my new horror family, but that is the truth. And then lastly, I would say Sixth Sense. I can't go without mentioning Sixth Sense. I think that was one of Jenny's favorite films as well, if I remember correctly.
And Jennifer, what's your favorite horror movie as a teenager?
My favorite horror film as a teenager, I had a few. It was absolutely The Shining. I was introduced to The Shining in 8th grade. I actually loved The Ring when it came out, and then I saw the Japanese version actually afterwards. So I saw the original after the American version, Ringu, and I just adore it. I think it's so spectacular. And then of course Sixth Sense as well. Those were my top few favorites. Yeah.
And for you, Henk, if you could direct a film adaptation of any novel, novella, short story, besides mine, of course, which one would you like to do?
Well, don't sell yourself short. You've got to tell us about your short story as well, if you before saying that we won't do it. But I think I like Charles Bukowski. I think the world needs a little bit of Charles Bukowski. So I would like that to make something really ridiculous. I think Californication was probably based on some of his stories, to be honest. But I would like to do something of him, and he's kind of like do you know Charles Bukowski at all? I've discovered him on a bathroom, which is an appropriate place to discover him. My friend's Lou, there was a book right next to it, and I picked it up, and it was Charles Bukowski, and I opened it and I started reading, and he reads like I talk when I'm had 10 beers maybe. And I was reading it and I was like, this is amazing. The guy he's got no sense of grammar. He has no formal writing education, but he writes for a living. And I'm a little bit like that as well. I make spelling mistakes. I make grammar mistakes all the time. I did study it, but, so I really like that job. And then I would love to do Nelson Mandela's story again, Long Walk to Freedom. I've always been a huge fan of Nelson Mandela, and I've worked a little bit with some of his family members. And so that book I would like to remake, either as a play or a musical or anything like that. And then there's a local performer, Johnny Clegg, that I also admire. And he was called the White Zulu, and he had an incredible tale where actually was a white guy that went into the Zulu, he got adopted into the Zulu tribe, if you will. And he was the first guy that started learning Zulu music and making that sort of mainstream music in South Africa in apartheid. And I thought this guy's story is just incredible and worth telling. So those were and he wrote a book, and those are the 3 books I would love to do. Which is kind of weird because Charles Bukowski is on this side now that I think about it, and Long Walk to Freedom and Johnny Clegg is on that side. But I think that gives you a little bit of insight into how I think about stuff.
Henk, you worked on a film called Femi Forty's Lupola with Nelson Mandela's grandson, and received 4 nominations for the SAFTA Awards in 2014.
That's right.
Yeah. Could you tell me your experience with that project?
Yeah, so the first clue is the word Fani Furis Lobola, which is quite a long title. It took us like 5 or 6 years to make that film, but it was a really special experience working with Kweku Mandela and as well as Lance Samuels, and then Janine Escher that wrote the screenplay with me, actually we didn't write the screenplay. It was based on a novel, but what really stood out for me about that experience is the way that the film got celebrated by everyone in South Africa. We have 11 official languages in South Africa, and it's really a film that brought everyone together to just for a moment go, oh, okay, well, we're all connected by stories, and this is a story that everyone could share. There was a poignancy in the romantic comedy that I think spoke to people, and I hope that's it was a cultural clash comedy, and so it kind of built bridges, and it's something I believe in as a person, is to build bridges and to understand each other better. And I was still living in South Africa at the time, and it's an incredibly divided country, just in terms of the classism and I would say the hangover of apartheid and the current government. So everybody is in little boxes, and that film hopefully broke some of them. So it was inspirational in that way. But then at the same time, I felt that the film, I was still young as a filmmaker, and I could make it so much bigger. I could have brought Seth Rogen in. I don't know if he would have done it, but I always wished I brought like an American in, and then fall in love with a Zulu woman, which I think it's such a cool way of showing these two cultures getting together and exploring where they're from, their traditions, and then also discovering their similarities. And so looking back at it now, I think that the film could get a remake. I hope I get to do it and get made into something a little bit more global, which is where my head is at the moment. But yeah, a great experience. I learned a hell of a lot about filmmaking, about actors, working with a bunch of phenomenal actors. Janine was an exceptional writer as well, as was Jenny. And yeah, so it was a great experience. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
And can you just tell us a brief moment about like the experience or your experience with the ceremony when you went to this FASTA? I believe that's South African's Oscar.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's a very formal event, which you know, I always have to go and borrow clothes for those kind of events. So it was lovely in that sense, and it was nice. The guy that won, I think his name is Shamil. He won the prize. He made a really good film as well. Also, I think it was called The Citizen. I can't remember the name. I'm sorry about that. I can't remember the name, but very, very cool film as well. And, you know, getting an award for doing your job to me is a little odd sometimes because I love doing my job. So the pat on the back, it's nice. It's nice to be acknowledged and to know that you've made something that people appreciate and see some worth in. But what really, really I love about filmmaking is to touch people and to move them emotionally and the audience really. So and that's like a golden thread through all my films is I try to make stuff that people respond to from an emotional point of view, and that I think we've achieved with The Unfamiliar. And you know, where it is a film that people may respond to. I mean, it's awful to say this, but may get scared of and maybe petrified at moments for, but at the same time, it's got a thematic that may may find some resonance with people, which is what I hope. I doubt that we will win much awards with it, but I hope that, you know, the film has an impact on people.
What piece of advice do you have aspiring screenwriters starting out?
For me, I think with screenwriters, it's really important to understand what people are asking of you and technique. I actually find that also sometimes sending in your drafts, when there's a reader that's inexperienced and they know something's wrong with your script, but they don't know how to really put it into words and give you proper constructive criticism, you know, if you don't understand script writing in a technical form, it will be to your detriment. And I think really it is just about writing and writing and writing and rewriting and being objective about your work as well. I think that's really important because, you know, a lot of screenwriters are like, oh, this is my baby. And that's good. You need to feel like you own it and you're really, you know, ensconced in your work. But I think it's also important to put on a different hat, so to speak, step back and think, okay, does this work? Does that character work? Can I make this stronger? Are the dynamics right? You know, and then in terms of script writing, you know, with Act 1, 2, or 3, does that build properly? Is this exciting? Is this fresh? Is this new? I think you always need to be objective and but also do what you love to do. I think a lot of people a lot of screenwriters that I've met get thrown into like, well, you know, this company is asking for this and everyone's looking for this thing right now. You also have to find a balance of what you enjoy doing. And because that's really, at least for myself, that's where I've found the most inspiration, the most fun, and finding my way as a writer.
And Jennifer, have you ever considered directing or just giving it a try?
I've actually directed a lot of music videos and short films. I would love to direct a feature. I think that'd be a blast. My short film, I think I did a couple years ago, went around the festival circuit. It did quite well, and yeah, there's a feature for that. So we'll see about that. See if that works out. But yeah, I would love to tackle Featureland pretty soon.
This is my last question. If you could choose a horror movie title for the story of your life dealing with COVID-19, what would it be?
Is that me first? I wrote that down. Oh, because I forgot it. Okay. I would say Waiting for Godot. That would be it, because I'm still waiting. I think that's the most horrific thing of this whole COVID thing. It's just in your room, you know. That's it.
I think, well, at least I don't know about my life up to COVID, but certainly during COVID, I think it'd be death by harp. I actually bought a harp, and during the lockdown, and while I wasn't working and, you know, not being paid, you know, not having any finances coming in, I thought, why don't I buy a harp? So I did, and then I just kind of played. I played so much. My family, you know, heard me play so much. I'm surprised, you know, they didn't, you know, I don't know. They seem to enjoy it. It's fine. But I think, yeah, that sort of was that, and working on a bunch of scripts was sort of my, I don't know, I don't have a very good title, but I like Death by Harp somehow. Some quirky film I could probably drum up, who knows.
You come from the house in the forest. A woman lived there. People whispered she could transfer the dead into the living.
Eden!
You taking your pills?
Yes! It wasn't a hallucination.
I need to perform an exorcism.
Whatever happens, stay calm. Do not attempt to make physical contact with the spirit.